Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and this amazing Express API series. In this video, we will see how we can send data to our Express API or our APIs in Express. We will see the query parameters, URL parameters, and the request body. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so let's say we have a user here and we want to get a specific user. So we have a user API and we want to get a specific user, let's say based on their ID. So we want to do something like a get request where we have user, then forward slash, let's say if I put 1, then I need a user with ID 1. If I put it over here 2, I want a user with ID 2. If I put it over here 3, I want a user with ID 3. So this thing like this 1, 2, 3, whatever we are passing here, it is known as URL parameter. So how can we pass this URL parameter and access it in our code? So let's go to our Express code. Here I have already started the node server, and here we will write a get request. So I'm going to say app.get. Now this will be a user route. So here I'm going to say user and then request response function. And then now in this case, you'll see that next is added. So next refers to the middleware. So for that, we don't need it here, nor we need it here for now. And let's add this route. So here we want a user with a specific ID or user details with that specific ID. For now, let's just send the ID back to the user or whosoever is making this API request. So here I'm going to say rest.send and I'm going to send it something like ID, whatever the ID user has sent. Okay. Now, how can we get the ID? Or first of all, how can we pass that ID? So to pass a URL parameter, you put forward slash, then colon, and the parameter variable. In this case, I'm passing ID. So I can say colon ID. Okay. Now here, I can catch that ID. So I could say const ID. So this is a destructure syntax in JavaScript. And here I can get it from request.params. Okay, let's see what do we get when we pass the same ID back again. So if we go back to our API request, make a request over here, get request, Postman agent is already working as well. And there we go. We have a response with ID 3. Now, what if we want to pass multiple parameters? Let's say we want to pass ID and we also want to pass, let's say, their name. So in this case, we can keep on adding the parameters, like we could say name. We can have them separated. We don't have to keep them in sequence. We can say something like here name in the URL variable, or we could say something like username, something like this. And we can pass the URL parameter afterwards. And now we can get it from request.params. So request.params in a way is used to get the URL parameters. So here I can just get the name from it and I can send the name over here. Let's say I call this username and this was the name. Now if I go back over here, make another API call to forward slash. Now if I just make it to here, I will get no response because of course we don't have that route because we just overrode that route. But if I pass it something like username and then Aditya, then if we hit a request and we will get our data. So that's perfect. So here we are able to pass the URL parameters. What if we want to pass the query parameter? Let's say we have another API request. So here we will say app.get and let's say we have something like user and we pass a URL parameter, the query parameter, which refers to question mark and then the list of parameters. So in that case, let's write again a request response function. Request response, and here let's send the response of whatever we get from the query parameters. So here I'm going to say, let's say we pass the ID in the query parameter, that will be the query that or the ID we will get from the query parameter. Now to do that, all we need to do is destructure the ID, but this time instead of from request.params, we will do request.query, and then we can send back the ID here like this. Let's give this a try. So we just remove everything from here, keep the user, and now query parameter starts after the question mark. So question mark, let's say ID equal to 2. And if we send this, you'll see we get an error saying that get / user. Now the reason being our route is at the bottom of this user route over here. So we need to keep this at the top so that it will work properly, because Express when it comes to routing, or when you have to define the routes and have the functionalities associated with them, it works from top to bottom. So it will scan your routes like this. And as soon as it sees, okay, it already sees a user, but you're asking for a query parameter, sorry, URL parameter over there. So it will refer this route, even though you're referring to this route. So we just need to make sure that all the static routes are at the top and dynamic routes are kept at the bottom. So let's give this a try. Now, if we go back over here, send, and there we go. We got our response properly. So two things to remember: static routes come at the top because the approach is top to bottom. And secondly, dynamic URLs, where in which case you are passing the URL parameters, they come at the bottom. Also, if you want to get the query parameters, you have request.query. If you want to get URL parameters, you have request.params. But what if you want to get the body parameters? Generally, you send those with post request. So here, let's say we are sending the user details. It could be email, name, and password, or all those things. So how can we get those? Well, let's write those all over here, or let's do something like this: const body equal to request.body. So query parameters from request.query, URL parameters from request.params, body parameters from request.body. Now let's send that body parameters as it is, whatever being sent. Now if we go back over here for the post request, change this to post, take it from here. And now if we send, let's say, go to body, then raw body with JSON, and here we can send something. Let's say we say name, we send it Aditya, we say email, let's say we say aditya@example.com, and then let's say password 1234. Let's send this and see what happens. There we go. We didn't get anything. Let's see why. So if we see over here, everything is fine, but why we weren't able to get the request? Like, we are keeping the route at the top, then what's the problem? The reason being, we need to add a middleware to our API route where it scans or it converts our request format into JSON. So to do that, what we need to do is we can add a middleware. So this middleware will run for all the requests before, or rather it will run before entering any request that we have in our API route. And we do that by saying app.use and whatever middleware we want to add it. So here we want to make sure that we add the JSON functionality or the JSON middleware that comes with Express. And we are saying here, wherever or whenever you get a request, make sure that the request is converted to standard JSON format so that we can access the data properly here. Now, if we make a request, there we go, and we get our body parameters correctly. So that's all in this video. In the next video, we will start making our APIs for our app. So see you in the next video. Till the next time, goodbye.